God is going to take care of you. Do you really believe that? Or is that just AA podium rhetoric? Is that just stuff we talk about to make each other feel better? You know, maybe this whole thing is just a coincidence. You know, that Bill and Bob got together here 70 years ago, and this whole thing worked out, and now millions of us have got sober. It's just a coincidence. You know, it's like I'm sitting in my home group. I'm only 2 years sober. Dallas North, my home group. I'm sitting down there 2 years sober, getting ready. It was birthday night. 200 people at that big group. 200 people there celebrate birthday night. After the party, I'm leaving to go home. Joanne's working the front desk. Joanne comes up to me, grabs me, and she says, "Hey, this little guy called from San Antonio." Her mother called. This woman called from San Antonio, and her son's here in Dallas drunk, and he's suicidal. He's going to kill himself. She called him. She can't get up here quick enough to save him. You want to make this 12-step call? And I said, not if he's got a gun, you know. And I said, give me the phone number, let me call her. So I called her on the phone down in San Antonio. Little lady answered the phone crying. She said, my son called me. And he's drunk in Dallas. Been drunk for a long time, and he's real disoriented. He drinks and drugs when he's out there. He's disoriented, and he couldn't find AA's phone number. But he could remember his mama's phone number. He called his mama and asked her to call AA in Dallas to help him. Because she said, he's suicidal, he's going to kill him. Can you help my son? I said, let me call him. So she gave me his phone number. I called him on the phone, told him who it was, and said, you want some help? He said, yeah, I want some help. And I said, well, where are you? We'll come see you. And he said, man, I can't tell you where I am. So I've been drinking and drug, and I haven't been to bed in 2 weeks. He said, I'm disoriented, I can't even tell you how to get here. I said, just give me your address, we'll find you. He said, it won't work, man. It's a brand new street. It's not even in Mapsco. You never find it. I'm too messed up to tell you, give you directions. I said, give me your damn phone number or your address. I'll find you. So I gave him his address. He lived on Dome Street. Now I've told this story for 20 years, 22 years. Every month in Dallas, Texas, I do the steps and I tell this story. That's thousands of drunks all around every group in Dallas, Fort Worth area. I've told this story to for 22 years. And I always ask, does anybody know where Dome Street is? There's thousands of people in Dallas, Texas to live there, I've asked. Nobody knows where Dome Street is. It's only a street 2 blocks long, very hard to find. But see, I know where Dome Street is. I know, right? I have a client that lives on Dome Street. He not only lives on Dome Street, he is literally the next door neighbor of the guy making the phone call. I said, oh, I know that address. I know right where you are. I'll be there in 20 minutes. Got the guy sponsoring me to make that toast. That's just a coincidence, isn't it? God ain't going to do that. You know the odds of that? The odds of a lady in San Antonio calling directory information, asking for AA. We got like 150 groups in Dallas. For some reason, an operator picks Dallas North. I'm only 2 years sober, 200 people at the meeting, but Joanne picks me to give that 12-step call to, and I know where Dome Street is. You know the odds of that? I'm a gambler, right? Oh, yeah, I want to bet on that. That'll happen a lot. Just a coincidence. God ain't going to do that. God ain't going to put just the right person at just the right time with just the right information in our lives. Since God works through people, that's just a coincidence, isn't it? A little while later, I'm going out to California on a business trip. I'm at the airport. Going to leave at 9 o'clock in the morning. Big sign up there, the plane's been delayed an hour. No big deal. I get my coffee. I'm waiting an hour. They come back an hour later and they say, listen, this flight's been canceled. The plane's broke. Won't work. But there's a plane 2 gates down going to California. There's some standby room on it. So 200 of us run down there to get on standby. You know? There's only 17 seats left on that standby. I'm the second to the last guy that got on standby. So I get on standby, go back to that plane. There's 1 seat left. This is when you can smoke on airplanes. There's 1 seat in the smoking section, right next to the window. Right next to that is this good-looking gal in a red dress. Never forget that red dress. God has worked in my life today, you know. So I sit down. And this is a bad seat. This is a chatterbox. This guy just chatter. I have not had enough coffee for this woman. I was having another. Finally, the plane takes off. She sets up. She pulls out a needle point. She's needle pointing. I look over. She's needle pointing the Serenity Prayer. I thought, my turn. So I said, what are you doing? She said, I'm needle pointing. I said, I know. What are you needle pointing? She's real embarrassed. She didn't want to show me. She said, oh, nothing. I'm just needle pointing. I said, what are you needle pointing? She finally holds up and she says, well, they call this the Serenity Prayer. I said, oh, man. Are you one of those Jesus freaks? She She goes, no. Now she's real nervous, you know. Her hands are sweaty. She knows I'm watching her. She said, but I'm trying to lead a spiritual life. I said, really? She says, yeah. See the little point going over. I thought I better stop this poor gal before she breaks a finger. I said, honey, listen, if that's the serenity prayer and you're trying to lead this spiritual life, let me ask you a question. Are you a friend of Bill W.'s? And boy, she stopped and sighed and looked at me. She said, yeah. Are you? I said, no. I said, he died a long time before I got sober, you know. He just really did, you know. So. Come to find out, this poor gal, that she had a couple months sober. This was her first trip away from home. And was petrified because she was scared to death she was going to drink out of it. She had also had her first drunk dream the night before. And she thought it was a premonition she was going to get drunk. And she was going to be out in California, didn't know anybody out in California. She was going to be out there for 2 weeks on training for a new company. And was just scared to death. And she said, we had a great 3-hour meeting. I told her about some of my drunk dreams and what that was all about. I gave her some phone numbers of people out there in California that she could call, take her to a meeting. She said, we cried. She said to me, can you believe what God did? I've been trying to quit smoking. So I was sitting up in the non-smoking section. When they announced you guys were going to come on board, we could move seats if we wanted to. Can you believe that God would have me move back here to sit in this seat so I could sit by you? I said, hell, he canceled my old plane to get me to come over here and sit by you. You know? That's just a coincidence, isn't it? Come on, John. God ain't going to do that. God ain't going to cancel a plane so you can make a 12-step call. Don't be ridiculous. That's just a coincidence, you know? God ain't going to put just the right person at just the right time with just the right information in our lives to help us. Since God works through people, come on, it's just a coincidence, right? 1990, I'm down in Del Rio, Texas. It's a border town. Small border town. They got a conference they used to have down there. They don't have it anymore. About 70 people in that conference. They invited me to come down there, share something down there in Del Rio. And I meet this gal Saturday. On her badge, it says Dottie E. from Connecticut. And I said, Dottie, what are you doing here from Connecticut? She said, well, I'm on my way to see my husband. He's in the military. He's in the Navy. He's in San Diego in the Navy. I was driving down from Connecticut to see him. We spent the day in Del Rio. Spent last night in Del Rio. We're going to go on today, but we decided to spend the day in Del Rio. I called the AA. They told me about this conference, so I thought I'd come to it. And I said, well, great. Welcome to Texas. So I spoke Saturday night. When I get through speaking, Dottie comes up to me. She heard my story. She said, so you grew up in Utah? I said, yeah. She said, by any chance, do you have any relatives in Orem, Utah? And I said, well, I grew up in Orem, Utah. It's my hometown. She said, well, are you related to Mark and Betty Joe? I said, well, they're my parents. Dottie starts to cry. She throws her arm around me and tells me what her last name is. She said, Bobby is my husband. Tommy's my husband. She said, Tommy's my first cousin. He's 3 days older than me. We grew up together, ripping and running. Turned 18. I went to college. He joined the Navy. I'd seen Tommy one time in 18 years. Didn't know he was in AA. He had met Dottie in Alcoholics Anonymous. They got married. And she was on his way. He was in the Navy, and she was in Connecticut. He was in San Diego station. She says, I'm on my way to see Tommy because Tommy's drunk. And I'm divorcing him. We called him. He was drunk that night. She told me I had a real God problem. I had a cracked little door. We were able to make a 12-step call on Tommy. And I know where Tommy is today. You know? And I also know Tommy's got 14 years sober in the program of Alcoholics Anonymous today. You know? Now that's just a coincidence, isn't it? God ain't going to do that. You know the odds of that? She's in Connecticut. He's in San Diego. I'm in Dallas. And I meet this gal married to my first cousin in Del Rio. You know, because she decided to spend the day in Del Rio. Nobody spends the day in Del Rio. Okay? That's just a coincidence, isn't it? God ain't going to do that. God ain't going to put just the right person at just the right time with just the right information in our lives to help us, is He? Since God works through people, that's not the way it's going to be. It's just a coincidence, isn't it? Patsy and I were in Hawaii at the Hawaiian State Convention for Alcoholics Anonymous. And Friday morning we got up, and they called, and my dad had died in Salt Lake. And we couldn't get off the island. We couldn't get off till Saturday. So we got off the island on Saturday, and we had to fly a weird way because all the flights were so crazy. We had to go from Hawaii to San Francisco. We had a 4.5-hour layover in San Francisco, and then we had to go clear back to Dallas, and then from Dallas down to Houston, then from Houston back to Salt Lake. It took 24 hours to get there. And we got there on Sunday afternoon. We buried my dad Monday morning. And Tuesday, I'm getting ready to leave. My son took me, who was living in Salt Lake. He dropped me off at the airport. And I had about 3 hours before the plane was going to leave. And that was really the first time I'd been alone. And so I'm sitting there in the Salt Lake City airport, and I'm lonely, and I'm real tired. Hadn't slept at all. And I'm sitting there, and I started into that valley where I'm lonely and tired. I'm a little angry. Wasn't all that hungry. But I'm starting into the valley. And when you go into the valley, it's dark. And it's scary. And there's a sense of impending doom. And I start to beat myself up. I start saying, what was I doing in Hawaii? My dad had had a heart attack 3 months ago. I called my mom before we left. She said, yeah, he's doing fine. Go ahead and go. But the good son would have gone home and been with his mom when she needed him. I should have gone to Utah and been with my dad before he died. That's this AA stuff when I hear on these trips. It's just ego. I should have gone and been with my mom, my dad before he died. I'm right in the middle of beating myself up real bad. And over the paging system comes this page. And it says, will a friend of Bill W. pick up the white paging phone? I started laughing. Well, he needs a 12-step call. I picked up the phone, and there was a young guy from Chicago. We met in the bar. And I said to him, I've never heard of you page friends of Bill W. all the time? He said, never done it before. Just want to see if there are any drunks in Utah. His dad had died a year prior to that. We had a great hour meeting in that bar, in that coffee shop. You know? So that was for me. That one was for me. That's just a coincidence, isn't it? God ain't going to do that. What it is, it told me I'm right. See, my dad was going to die anyway. My primary purpose is to help other alcoholics. And I was right where I was supposed to do. Right where I was supposed to be doing what I was supposed to be doing. That's just a coincidence, isn't it? God ain't going to do that. I'm sure y'all have heard a lot of pages for Bill W. in airports. You know? Never heard one before or since, you know. That's just a coincidence. God ain't going to put just the right person at just the right time with just the right information in our lives to help us, is He? Since God works through people. Now, I share that with you tonight because I know that there are some people in this room this morning in a lot of pain. Because life goes on when you get sober. It doesn't really seem to matter whether you've been sober 30 days or 20 years. Sometimes it hurts to be sober because life happens. And when you're in there, sometimes you just don't know, man. You can be sober 20 years and you're going through all that stuff in life. And it's like you've crawled over the edge of the precipice and you're looking into the abyss and you don't know, does this God stuff really work? Or do I need to go find another program? Do I need to get on something else to help me through this? I've worked all the steps. I've done everything. I've sponsored people. I've read the book a jillion times. And my life's miserable. What do I need to do? And if that's where you are, then you need to know that this morning, I know more than ever that God loves us. He loves us. And God Himself will go to any lengths to see that you get it. I used to think that was a one-way street, that we had to be willing to go to any lengths to get sober. I know today that God will go to any lengths to see you get this deal. He loves you that much. And if you're having a rough time right now, which you're going to have, then you need to know that. And if you need to borrow my God till you can find a power of your own that will solve your problem, then do that. Because I've borrowed your God lots when I didn't know. And the God of my understanding today will go to any lengths to see you get well. But we have the only disease whose recovery was designed by God, including in that recovery God. It's an incredible deal. Now, I don't know when God will help you, but I know exactly how God will help you. I know exactly how God is going to help you, no matter what your problem is. What God's going to do, He's going to put just the right person at just the right time with just the right information that you need. Because God works through people. And that's why our fellowship becomes so important. It's because you're the people that God's going to talk to me through. And I love you so much for that. I just love you with all my heart, and thank you for inviting us to come share.